basically on all these old maps, on the old time maps, you had what's called the ecliptic of the sun, the path the sun takes through the year. So on these old maps here, you got the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. So I'll start here in the center here, and I'm going to go to the left. The sun reaches the equator on March 21st, the first day of spring. 12 hours of sun, 12 hours of night. The sun continues to head north as your days get longer. This is all from the northern hemisphere. So your days get longer as the sun goes further and further and further north up here. On June 21st, the sun reaches the Tropic of Cancer, and that's the first day of Cancer. And you have the 3 longest days of the year. The summer solstice. The sun kind of sits up there. The sun begins traveling south. Those are your longest days of the year. Now your days of the year get shorter because the sun starts traveling south. The sun goes all the way down. The sun goes back to that equator again. Basically, September 21st, the sun hits the equator again. And then you have 12 hours of sun, 12 hours of night again. Then the sun continues to go south. So we'll loop back over here like Pac-Man. The sun continues to head south on its ecliptic. It goes south. Your days get shorter and shorter in the northern hemisphere. The sun reaches the shortest day of the year right here. It hits the Tropic of Capricorn. And that's the first day of Capricorn. And then the sun sits there for 3 days. You have the 3 shortest days of the year. Winter solstice, right? And then if you're in the southern hemisphere, then, obviously it's reversed. That's your longest days. And then the sun starts to travel north again. So the sun will go north again. From the northern hemisphere, your days will slowly start to get longer. The sun travels north again. It goes here again where we started. The equator, spring equinox, 12 hours of sun, 12 hours of night. What day does it hit Capricorn? December 21st. These are all, there's variations of like 1 or 2 days. So it's all kind of based on the 21st. So you have March 21st, June 21st, September 21st, December 21st. And that's the path. And pretty much the whole science, whatever you want to call it, is based on the northern hemisphere from that perspective for whatever reason. Now this one, it's going from left to right, right? But think of it this way, like invert that. It would be just what I showed you. But here it is, instead of it's on that one, it was just kind of like a little curve. Here it's more of a circle or a half, like a rainbow. So it's a half circle. And then the other half would go like that. It would just loop back into itself. And that's how you get what's called the zodiac wheel. So that's what I showed you on that. If you look at this here, Aries is here on the right. So you have Aries, Taurus, Gemini. That's the 3 months of spring. When the sun reaches here, that's the first day of Cancer. Then you have Cancer, Leo, Virgo. I should do it without that guy there. Hold on. Let's do it without the guy first before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Cancer, Leo, Virgo. This is all from the northern hemisphere. So the first day of spring here on the right. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. First day of Cancer, now you're in summer. Cancer, Leo, Virgo, that's summer. The sun's going south in the northern hemisphere. You reach September 21st, give or take. And then now you're in fall. Why? The sun has fallen from the northern hemisphere. It's gone south. The sun goes further south. These are the 3 months of fall. Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius. The sun reaches that Tropic of Capricorn. And now you're in winter. 3 shortest days of the year for northern hemisphere. You're down. The sun's down here now. Sun comes back up. Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Those are your 3 months of winter. Now you're back in Aries again in spring. So it's like that's the wheel of it. If you took that sine wave you saw on the map, just looped it back on itself, but it's a circle here instead of more like elongated how it was on the map. And even if it was on the flat Earth, let me show that first because there's probably, I haven't looked at the chat, but I'm sure there's somebody in there saying, "Oh, it's not a globe." Be the same thing because you still have the Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn on the flat Earth model. So the sun would still come to the equator. It would travel north. Most flat Earth models even will say that it goes higher and higher as it reaches towards the center, almost like a Christmas tree. It spirals up higher and higher, and then it spirals out. lower and lower in the winter. So it would reach the Tropic of whatever's in here in the center ring, the Tropic of Cancer. It would go back down to the equator ring, and then further back out to the furthest Capricorn ring, if the sun's just going in a ring, right? So I don't want to hear anyone saying, and I'm not even endorsing this, I'm just saying this is what it is. So when you look at it from this perspective, you have the same thing as what the same diagram that you would have as the yin yang, right? So look at where your light is here. So right here on the where this white dot is, that's your most dark. Most of this here down here is dark, where the white dot is. That's your winter right there. And then look at the light begins here. It gets like a seed of light here, and then the light begins to increase here, the same way it does on this configuration. And I'm going to show you why there's other configurations of that. The light increases here. Now you have the most light right here. Right up here. This is where there's the most light. The same thing you see in a year here where it's summer. And the sun would be at the highest point in the northern hemisphere. The most light, it gets a drop of darkness in it, and now the darkness begins to grow. As the sun comes south, as the days get shorter for northern hemisphere, you get more and more and more dark here. And again, same thing happens. It goes down here, max darkness, you're at the winter. Capricorn, Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, so then what the, like, I don't know, ancients or whoever, I don't know who does it. They also mapped the human body to this diagram, like you see here, a person folded in half but backwards. And Aries always represents the head. Taurus is your throat or your neck. Gemini is your hands, your lungs, because you have two, right? 2 hands, 2 lungs. Cancer is your stomach, or kind of the concept of like almost like the Cancer and Leo. Leo's the heart and spine. That's kind of like your heart chakra type area, where the sun would be like the longest days of the year and everything like that. Virgo is your intestines. Libra is your kidneys. Libra is the scales, right? And the kidneys filter your blood and everything like that, kind of judge you. And then here's where we are, Scorpio, and that's the sex organ, it says, for for the man or the woman. It's the pee-pee. After that, you have Sagittarius, which is your hips and thighs. Then you have Capricorn is the knees and also the bones. Capricorn is your knees and bones, like the lowest density. I've seen other ones that have like the systems of the body like mapped to it, and that's like the skeletal system, the lowest vibrational thing of the entire human body, because after you die, your skeletal system will be here for hundreds of years later. And up here would be like the nervous system would be the summer, where you see the summer, or up here. The nervous system, which would be a kind of like refreshing, thousands of times a minute or whatever. And then you got Aquarius is your calves and ankles, cankles. And then Pisces is the feet, like Jesus fish. You can see it's a constant, it's like a sine wave. It's a rotation of energy. It's a circuit, right? Hold on, I got a better. Yeah, I like this grimier one. It looks better. There we go. Same thing. You have they map that cardinal directions to it. Who are the cardinals? And you'll see this all over the place. This blue right here. You just take everything else away and you just have that, just the blue. That's the Zodiac cross. That's like a super old sign with those 4 holy days, right? On there. The same thing you have in the seasons. It's like a fractal sine wave, so it happens also every day. So where this middle line here in the year represented the equator, if you take that to represent now the horizon in the day, this line that goes directly across from spring to fall, if you have that in a day, now that's the horizon. Now look at it. You have the sunrise. The sun comes over the horizon, and the reason I have it set up this way is because the sunrise is in the east, and I'll go more into it in a minute of why I have it this way and how you can interpret it when you see it other ways. sun rises in the east, right, over the horizon. The sun travels, it gets to its peak. You call it noon. It's not necessarily 12, just the highest point it reaches. It's zenith. The sun gets up there. The sun sets in the west. It goes down. In the globe, you'd say it goes below your feet, right? Or in the flat earth model, you'd say it goes the furthest away it goes. That's when it goes, it's down here. It's underneath your feet or as far as it goes in the flat earth. It doesn't matter what you believe. And then it returns. The sun rise again. The same thing happens in the lunar cycles. So you have a half moon. Let's start over here on the right again. Half moon. Increasing, right? What is it called? Waxing, I think, is when it's increasing. I'm not 100% sure I'm right on that. But then the moon increases in light. The moon reaches a peak, or it's full moon. The moon starts to wane or decrease till it reaches half moon again, but on going down. And then the moon continues to decrease, just like the light in the year, just like, the light in the day gets the furthest away, until there's a new moon. There's nothing here. And then it slowly starts to increase the light again, just like the yin yang thing here too, right? So now you could also map the cycle of the human being's life to this, because everything's like a fractal sine wave basically. So let's do it again here, where there's nothing here, and as the light starts to increase, you could call that the death rebirth time right here. Think of a baby here, where I have these red letters. The baby slowly grows, just kind of follow the moon. The baby, it's little. Baby down here, it's in a stroller. Doesn't have any teeth, right? No hair. Baby's crawling. Baby's walking. Baby's a toddler now. A little kid. One day here, a baby, that kid now, teenager, reaches puberty. Right, the same place you saw where it was the horizon. It was the beginning of the day. Or when it was the equator, it was the beginning of the spring. As the kid reaches puberty, it gets older, gets bigger. So compare this puberty right here, and this time between the kid reaches puberty. Well, let me just finish it. It goes from puberty to its physical prime, which, it's different for each person. But let's just say like 30 years old or whatever. 30 years old for a man, like 21 for a woman, right? Just kidding, ladies. You reach your physical prime here, and then your body starts to kind of slowly, you get older, you decay, right? You reach this part over here. For a woman, you'd call it menopause. For a man, you'd call it like a midlife crisis. Over here, you're like 45 or whatever it is, it's different for every single person. So, but then you get older, your light starts to fade out. You're getting older and older and older. You're down here. Now you're an old person. You got no hair. You got no teeth. You can't walk. You're in a wheelchair. Somebody's pushing you around. You tap out. You're gone. So I would think you just come right back in now again as a baby. No hair, no teeth, in a stroller, right? It just comes back around. And so if you compare and contrast these to the seasons of the year, think about a person in puberty. Basically what this would be a one-day thing. Think of like when a girl has her lady day, she gets her first period. That's kind of what this represents with this first day of spring type area over here. And then think of what it would be in the year, in the year on March 21st. I'm in Minnesota. It's still kind of snowing. Grass is barely just starting to grow. Stuff like that. Over here, the puberty, they're just starting to develop their little bodies, boys and girls. Maybe hair is just coming on their body and stuff. They probably still look like really young kids, even though they're entering puberty. But then it doesn't take long, another month or two, and then they're starting to look a lot older, right? The kids, I don't mean a month in a kid's life. I mean a year or two in a kid's life, but a month in like the year. Now all of a sudden the trees are sprouting buds and everything like that. Grass is growing more and everything like that. That's like a young man starting to get little muscles on him and everything like that. A young lady starting to develop more and everything like that. And then you come up here, physical prime. Everything's firing full cylinders for the man and the woman. Everything's fully developed. The trees and everything outside, fully developed. And probably time to begin reaping some of that fruit and berries or whatever, all that kind of stuff in nature. And then as the light decreases here, it goes down. The same thing, right? The trees are still kind of growing. It's getting almost too big. The trees and everything, they almost start to overgrow here in this part, right as we're getting to right now, September 21st. And as you get older, man, you notice old guy, you start getting hair growing out of your ears, out of your nose and stuff like that, right? You get these overgrowth type things. And then on the woman, it's marked by the menopause. But basically up top, this top half, if you just look at just the top half, you could call that top half right here photosynthesis. So up here, that's when the sun returns to the northern hemisphere. That's when you could start growing the crops and everything again, right? And in the life of the human being, from puberty to menopause, from left to right here and going around, that's the time you can make babies. Basically, you can make a baby here, and then all the way through. It gets harder as you get here, but technically that's kind of what it represents or whatever. So the electricity of the photosynthesis is like a sexual energy type thing. And then that leaves you, and then you got the rest of your years here to go down here. And then trees, think of a tree, you know. Now at fall, all the trees, the leaves are falling off the trees. Everything's withering away and everything like that. And after you hit that point in your life, different for every person, but it kind of starts, everything starts to wither away. The man starts to lose his strength. Skin starts to sag. All that great stuff we get to look forward to, right? And then you come down here, man. That's what makes me think you must come back in or something, somehow, some way. And you can see some of the signs and symbols that they get derived from this, possibly. I think they probably do. The symbol of the Baphomet, if you look at this, and remember this center line here. So you have 3 of the 5 points are below the center line, which is either your horizon or your equator. 3 of the 5 points is pointed down, and the main point of it is here at this thing: winter, sun furthest away, death, rebirth time, no moon, right? So this is why this one would be considered evil. It's pointed down. It's 3 of the 5 are down here, and only 2 here. The 2 that are here, it leaves wide open the main one that you'd want, like the maximum light, maximum yang energy right here. The yang is the white, the yin is the black, dark, whatever. So where maximum yang is kind of left wide open on this Baphomet symbol. Okay, now imagine the goat's head's not on here anymore. Sorry about that. I'm going to turn this around. Just forget the goat's heads there. I wanted to have a regular pentagram in there. So in the so-called good pentagram, or you mess with tarot pentacle or whatever, now you have the opposite. You have 3 of the 5 is on the above, in the yang, in the top part, in the photosynthesis part, in the light. 3 of the 5 are above that line. The main point is pointed to that, the summer, peak physical prime, all that stuff, you know, maximum yang. And then the 2 down here are leaving this wide open, the symbol of where the winter, death, all the maximum yin, all that. This is left wide open intentionally. It's not pointing to there. It's like a dial almost. So that one's point. That's why the one that's up is considered so-called good, and the one that's down is considered so-called bad, right? And when I study, I like to get down on that like Egyptian mythology type stuff. So these are my interpretations of the Egyptian mythology. Is you have these so-called gods of Egyptian mythology. To me, everything on here, including, you know, other than the human being's life, but all this other stuff is like concepts pretty much. The same as these Egyptian gods. So you'd have Horus as the sun god or whatever. That Horus represents like the spring, where the sun either rises when this line in the middle is the horizon, or the spring when this line here equals the equator. And then you have what's called the Amen Ra, the Most High, is the maximum yang energy. You say amen, right? And then you have set when the opposite of Horus is set. So it's equal day, equal night, but descending instead of ascending on Horus. Horus the falcon. Set is going down here. And then down here, where the sun comes down, and the sun is the most furthest away from you, or if you're in a globe, you'd say the sun's underneath your feet. That's Osiris. Osiris, the king of the underworld. He travels through the underworld, right? And then he comes back. So when the sun's under your feet, that's the energy of Osiris. You make a shoe, you call it Osiris. And now you're resonating with that. And there's some sort of what you'd call magical energy resonating with Osiris and feet for some reason. And when you look at their logo, that's a zodiac wheel with this pointed at the very bottom, down, winter, death, rebirth, all that stuff. Sun furthest away from you and everything. That's the Osiris shoe logo. They even have the zodiac cross in it. So if you're a skater, you probably know those shoes. And that's where you get a lot of that other, Easter and everything. Easter, it's over here. It's in the east. What, April? This is March 21st. Easter is somewhere over here in the east. Fall, the sun's falling and everything like that. So now you may see this configured some other way. If you see it, just read it like this. Well, what this really is, before I continue, what this whole thing really is, and everything is, it's a fractal sine wave of everything. Hollow fractal graphic matrix, pretty much. So what this really is, it's the brain. So you have the right side being the creative side, where they showed on like the yin yang. This is the right side, creation of light. And then the left side here is the left brain, the computer side, the logical side. So now think about this one as throughout like the year. You kind of fade it out a little. The left logical side, you reach the peak of the season here, and now you know the sun's going away. You got to use your brain and figure out, how am I going to harvest all these crops and last through this whole winter and everything, you know what I mean? And the right side's the creative side. So don't forget this part. I'm not going to be able to leave this hemispheres up when I show you why mine's laid like this. But just don't forget that east, I have east aligned to Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and all this stuff on the right side. So this is like your right hemisphere over here, right? Just remember Aries is the right hemisphere, and Libra is basically your left hemisphere. So you may see this configured any other way. It's the same thing. It's just a brain. So this brain, let me go back to the brain again before I forget. The brain, think of this as a brain. The right hemisphere is creating light, right? And the left hemisphere is the logical computer and everything. This is like a this is a 2D drawing of a 3-dimensional concept like a brain. So then this white dot here, if this is a 3D brain, this white dot, that's your reptilian brain or your brainstem, where your spine connects to your brain in the back of your head right here. That's like the back of your head. From a brain, you're looking out, right? This black dot here, that's like the Hindu dot or whatever. The black hole, the absorber of the light and everything like that. Black hole, your brain or whatever. In a 3D model. So that's kind of the 3-dimensional drawing of the 2-dimensional yin yang or whatever, like a brain, or like you see your what do you call it, your energetic field. You see that like heart, and there's that drawing of like the heart expansion from the heart and everything like that. Or the earth you'd be the plane in the middle of this. The center would be what you call the North Pole or whatever, and the outside of it would be the so-called ice wall of Antarctica or whatever like that. Everything's just like the same thing, just fractal energy basically. So when you see these, you might see them in a paper or something. You might see Aries over here on the left or something like that. It's all the same. It all stays together how it is, but it goes like this. Now you might see it like this: Aries, Taurus, Gemini down here. So basically the way I have it set up is it's your, like how you're looking from behind your brain looking out. but almost like a top flat view of this, but of a 3D concept. So that's where some people get caught up. It gets kind of confusing, I understand. So this is you looking out, right? If you see it this way, Aries is over here on the left now. Taurus, Gemini. Now the summer is down here. Everything stayed the same because now it's like now it's like a brain looking at you, like an external person looking at you. Think of it that way. It's kind of hard to conceptualize because this is a flat 2D drawing. But if you think of it as like that Taurus or just a brain, someone now looking at you. Or as you see it any other way, a good way to think of it is like always in that brain. You might see it like this. You might see Libra right up top here or something like that. Same thing. It's always going to be the same. Now it's like a person looking to the right, external to you, a person that's looking to the right. That's why I have it set up that way. So it's like your vision behind you looking out as a brain, with the right hand side being the creative side and the left hand side being, you know, the logical computer side or whatever. And then so when you see some of these drawings out here, like here's one I noticed a while ago. If you look closely on this, they give you enough clues on this. You have the symbol of Cancer right here on the bottom. And then you have the symbol of Aries over here on the left side of the screen. So let me show you how that one's set up here. So they had it basically upside down here. So they had it as almost like a brain or something looking at you. They have summer right here on the bottom, maximum yang on the bottom. And then they have Aries, or the head or whatever, up here on the left side of the picture. So if you took this picture, if you configured this picture the way I have it set up, so that the summer's on the top, where it's like a brain behind your head. If you look at it now, these are actually angels on the side here. So now these angels are coming down instead of standing up. So to me, this interpretation of this painting behind them is it's like fallen angels, because there's two angels on each side. And they're both, their head is down. They're not standing up anymore when you see it this way. So when you know how to kind of read that like map or whatever, I don't know if that's really what they're trying to say, but that's kind of that'd be like my interpretation of it. It doesn't mean they're Satanists and they worship fallen angels or whatever. To me, it's like I don't even know. Angels would be like some kind of entity, you know, an angle of light or something, an entity maybe from the Elohim, the holographic projectors, which you call a star. So yeah, see how it's two angels' feet here or whatever. And I flip it upside down and there'd be like a brain behind your head or whatever. And you do have, I saw a lot of people say, the proof that Jesus is the Son is the Last Supper. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that. So the guys are all grouped in threes here. So you do have Jesus the Son. To me, there's like 7 layers of interpretations of all those like holy texts or whatever. But to me, that Jesus being the Son, that's like one of the most basic ones. That's like Truther 101. They gave that one to you for free on Netflix on Zeitgeist. They want you to know this one. They want you to push this one out here. But there's an interpretation, you know, that backs that. So these 3 guys over here are the spring. Aries is the head. Remember on the body? Aries is mapped to the head, right? Aries. Taurus is the throat. Gemini, hands and lungs. Aries, this guy's the head of the table right here. Taurus, and then you got Gemini, the hands. He's got his hands up. You got Cancer, Leo, Virgo. Virgo being Mary Magdalene, the only woman there. Libra, the scales. This guy, he's making some scales with his hands, right? Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. And a lot of other drawings, you'll see these guys looking older than the rest to kind of represent those, the winter or whatever. So you have spring, summer, fall, winter here. All that. Now, Da Vinci could be a total hoax, in my opinion. How do you know? whatever year they say he's from. This could have been from 100 years ago or something like that. There's no way you would know. This entire thing here could be like some kind of a false doctrine or something. But that's basically like the explanation of what they're trying to show you there.